Welcome to the Bachelor Universe podcast. I am your host, Jim Alexander. Today we will be talking about episode 3 of The Bachelorette, Rachel's season. We will talk about all the drama that happens in the episode. And as always, I'll bring it to you straight and real. So without further ado, let's get into it. This episode obviously has a lot of fallout after the DeMario saga continued, where he came up to the gate to talk to Rachel after she sent him packing home because he was a cheating, lying douchebag. So all the men obviously followed Rachel behind as backup, but DeMario's there to basically try to reconcile with Rachel, telling her that, giving her fake apologies in hopes that she takes him back, and tells her that in order to experience joy, you need to experience a pain. Well, he sure brings a lot of pain and zero joy to anyone. So he ends up asking her to give him another chance, right? And she throws it back in his face and owns him. So there you go. Now that DeMario is roaming around the streets in search of a next mistress, well, no, another person gets a chance, right? And that one would be Jonathan. Nerdy Jonathan. He manages to get handsy with Rachel. And by handsy, I mean literally, he comes with these pair of giant hand gloves or whatever it is. They're like ginormous. I don't know what he was trying to do with it. But that's Jonathan for you. Alex is next. He gets some chance with her in time. And he proves that he is every bit the Russian wizard by doing a Rubik's Cube while chatting up Rachel. So he multitasks also. Well done, Alex. Kenny, he still can't stop gushing about his daughter, which is nice and sweet, but bring something new, bro. Bring something new to the table. And then Whaboom gets his time with her also, and he's convinced. He has a theory. Whaboom has a theory that Blake has a crush on him. Now, that's only a theory that Whaboom could probably come up with, or Blake. Crazy. He starts with this theory saying that he claims that Blake stands over his bed when he sleeps, and he eats a banana. That is just so weird on every front. I don't even know. But Blake manages to extinguish this flame, right, by reassuring Rachel that he doesn't even eat carbs. So banana is a no-go to begin with. So there you go. The proof is in the pudding. Well, in this case, probably Blake wouldn't have the pudding. But no carb Blake. No carb Blake. Kind of rhymes, but it's a tongue twister. So there you go. He couldn't possibly be eating banana. Could have been something else. But does that mean he's standing over the bed? We don't know this. Still to be determined. So we go to a rose ceremony. A much needed rose ceremony. We need to get rid of some of this junk out of the house. So here we go. Brian, Colombian Dream. Bryce, don't know who he is. Eric gets a rose. Anthony. Will. Who? Will who? I don't know. Jonathan. He the handsy Jonathan. Jack Stone. Matt. Who? I don't know again. Alex, the Rubik's Cube Russian wizard. Adam. But does AJ the dummy come with? Or, I guess, package deal. Kenny. Brady. Like, there's a Brady here? Okay. Lee. Iggy, Fred. Yeah. And then the final rose comes down to Whaboom, Blake. One of them is going to be separated. Or Diggy. And Rachel is getting diggy with it because Blake and Whaboom are sent packing home. The end. Yeah, how unfortunate, right? Poor souls. Not really. But that's not the end for them because those two clowns decide to go in a really scripted and looking and just ridiculous bashing of each other, where Blake's doing some weird mannerisms pretending to be Whaboom, and Whaboom is throwing it back at him, and they're going back at each other, how they hate each other and how they need to be living near each other apparently. One accuses the other back and forth. They both suck. They're both losers. See wouldn't want to be now to the important start. The start of the Ellen show. So yeah, that's the group date. Group date for Brian, Jonathan, Peter, Will, Fred, and Alex. They are going to the Ellen DeGeneres show. Peter's too nervous about apparently being an audience member, I guess. Even though, Peter, you're being filmed for a national TV show, The Bachelorette, but go figure. So they do come out on stage. Okay, of course, Ellen wouldn't have him just sitting in audience. And they come out stage and they learn they're going to do a strip dance for the women in the audience and collect some dollar bills. As we can tell from the start, Jonathan, he couldn't pay off any of these women to get a dollar bill. There is no sum. On the other hand, Brian, and Alex, they're stacked with dollar bills. And guess we know who the women prefer. Next up, Ellen makes him play this game of truth. And Jonathan is still losing. Yeah, every answer just doesn't work. Oh well. Well, he's handsy, right? Well, after the show taping, Alex and Will make sure to get some smooches in. While Fred's 20-year wait, it's still going on. He's still waiting to get that kiss. But he gets some time alone with Rachel and he asks for permission to kiss her. And it gets super awkward. You would think. It's like the camp counselor days will never end. 20 years later, he still feels like a kid in camp because he's asking for permissions from Rachel. Just kiss her, man. Come on, what's the worst that could happen? But clearly that was awkward, and now she isn't feeling it, as if she was beforehand. Yeah, I guess maybe, I don't know, what does Rachel do? Put him in timeout and into the corner? She's the camp counselor, right? Poor Freddie. Basically, she just sealed his fate with that, and she sends him home. Clearly, she can't get over being his counselor. The guy kind of deserved a fair chance. Come on, that's 20 years ago. Who holds down to these childhood memories like that? It's get over it at some point, right? Big deal. The dude's a grown man now, but no go. At least Buddy stole a kiss, right? So, group date, Rose goes to Alex. So, Rubik's Cube and all, getting it done. I guess he collected enough dollar bills to move him along, maybe, huh? Now, Rachel has a date, and she has a solo date with Anthony, Chicago guy. And they're ready to go horsing around, literally, on a horse on through Rodeo Drive. That's a scene you can't really picture, and neither can any of these LA tourists who are snapping pictures left and right. They've never seen horses on a Rodeo Drive. It's kind of rodeo, lives up to its name, but not really practice. Well, they did in this instance. Things must be wacky if LA folks are just snapping pictures and, think this is so unique. And they've seen it all, right? Fortunately, though, you know what? Maybe unfortunately for Rachel and Anthony, those horses had a lot more chemistry than the couple riding them. It's a fact. You can look at the footage. Horses were getting along a lot better than Anthony and Rachel, so that's not a good sign, right? I guess not. back at the house, a date card arrives, and a group date. So Brady, Dean, Adam, Kenny, Bryce, whoever he is, Adam, Lee, and Eric are going on a date. Anthony claims to basically had a good date and tells Rachel that he likes her after the date, after riding horses and kind of having that dinner. And apparently he just talked himself into a rose because it worked. Rachel gives him the rose. And per Bachelor, Bachelorette rules, of course, after a dinner date, what happens? You have to have a band performing, playing music, like in the middle of nowhere usually. It could be anywhere from a barn, and here it's like, looks like it's on a cliff. This show just makes bands pop out of nowhere. And of course there's music playing, and he accepts the rose, and so that was that. As Anthony gets back to the house, he basically gets like a hero's welcome from the men. But Iggy decides to call out Eric on his insecurities, and a heated chat commences, apparently. Nothing more to it, though. So that was that. Now, the group date. So these guys, before they go on a date, they need to be shaped up. And who better to do that than Rachel's best friends? And her best friends are Raven, the Dolphin Girl, Alexis, and I believe it was Jasmine. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, something like that. It was the girl who was the cheerleader, right? Yeah, from Rachel's season. And, of course, Corinne. Like, is she actually someone's best friend? Corinne? How? Why? Have we not seen enough of her already? Maybe it's the producers are forcing Rachel to be friends with Corinne. I don't know. You would think she'd find other friends in that house, right? Kind of, maybe. I think so. So, basically, the girls are joining the guys and on this group date, and they are going to get some mud wrestling. Yeah, they're going to some saloon, or a bar basically where you can ride a mechanical bull, but they're doing mud wrestling. And you have Kenny on this date, for real. Like, he is an actual professional wrestler for Ring of Honor, and he makes sure he notices and tells you that he's part of Ring of Honor. Obviously, Kenny beats down everyone and body slams his competition, and the unknown man, Bryce, makes it to the final of this mud wrestling competition against Kenny. And per wrestling rules, and we have the per Bachelor Bachelorette thing rules where you get a band performing after a dinner. Per wrestling rules, Kenny has to put over Bryce, right? The guy that's unexpected to win, the underdog. So Kenny puts him over in true wrestling style, and Bryce gets the win, and he's the mud wrestling champion. I mean, Kenny, geez, what a sacrifice, because we know that Bryce had no shot if they actually were real wrestling. But fake wrestling, anything happens. So Kenny putting over, making the other guy look good. Good for you, man. So Kenny does get some time with Rachel again, and we find out that his secret is out. He is a former Vegas Chippendale dancer. So there we go. That's where he's got all these dance moves and wrestling moves and all moves. Meanwhile, Eric, okay, this is now becoming about Eric. He's getting a scoop from the tattletale Rachel that Lee and Bryce threw him under the bus. So Lee and Bryce kind of badmouthed Eric, and Rachel just can't hold it in. She can not name names. Well, she does, and she tells Eric about who talked smack about him. So, of course, things get heated by the fire, right? When Eric confronts Lee and Bryce, and the beef between the men leads to a group rose payout to Eric. Like, somehow he manages to get a group rose. Eric, unreal. So, yeah, apparently he was also the guy that all her friends, former contestants of The Bachelor, told her to look out for. So the girly advice was that, hey, watch out for Eric. He's not people's favorites, and could be sneaky. So of course Rachel went against her best friend's wishes and suggestions, and she gave the rose to Eric. Women. I don't know what she was thinking, but okay. So, keeping up with this tattletale theme, right? Iggy decides to throw Eric under the bus again. I mean, but at least he's man about it, because he tells Eric this right after. So Iggy mans up and does it. Just kind of like Whaboom and Blake was man enough to do it. Okay, forget about them. But Lee, of course, uses this opportunity to throw more shade at Eric when he's talking to Rachel. So Lee sneaks over, talks to Rachel, and throws more shade and salt and all that on Eric. So enough gets said to confuse Rachel to go and confront Eric. I mean, that was like a natural part of this, right? And his immediate response to her was like, I don't know, man. Like, quite the way to speak to a woman, right, Eric? I don't know, man. Yeah, good way to just address her that way. Unreal. That's the reason low this guy should be gone. Just when you thought that Eric had enough blow-ups for the night, he decides to shout and scream at Lee in front of everyone. It just goes off on him. And guess what? To be continued. That's the end. Last week they had a legitimate cliffhanger, kind of like an interesting one with DeMario showing up. This one, just like a shouting match between Lee and Eric. Really? Okay. Episode rating, 8 out of 10. Pretty decent, but standard Bachelor episode. So there it goes. Eric did get, like, my quick reaction to that would be like, Eric did get the most on-air time this season. So in this episode, once again, our buddy Brian, Mr. Columbia, was kind of hiding in the shades, right? We finally are made aware that Lee is the budding villain we've been waiting for. So it's kind of surprising to see him being the villain, but guess that's what they're setting up. And we find out that Anthony has not seen a horse in his life. That's pretty clear. And then Kenny is a heck of a wrestler, but he quits when the championship's on the line. So, I don't know. I guess this week's winners are Kenny, Alex, Anthony, and Eric to an extent. But next week is definitely promises to be the rise of a villain named Lee. So there we go. That's your episode recap. Not as dramatic as last week's, but still some good things happening here. More weight needs to be shed, and that means more guys need to go, like Bryce and guys you've never heard of, Will, and whoever else you've never heard of. Yeah. So far, the favorite, Brian's been quiet the last 2 weeks, but he's a strong favorite. He's going to be around. And Dean also looks like a heavyweight contender, and same thing with Peter. Didn't get that much time in this episode, but there it goes. So until next week, but there's big Bachelor news we need to touch on. So first one I was going to mention last week, kind of forgot about it, was the breakup between Ben Higgins and Lauren Bushnell. We saw this coming. Come on, like, they had that TV show on Freeform, right? Ben and Lauren, or whatever it was. And there were signs already there that these two were not really getting along, that they were kind of bickering. They weren't as happy as they appeared to be, and that's the end result right now, is because they're officially broken up and done. I just think he made a mistake by not picking JoJo. I mean, that was the pick to make, and he fumbled it, and he truly liked JoJo, and I bet he's regretting it now. Wouldn't it be nice to have a JoJo in your life? But no, you have a Jordan Rogers on her end. I don't know if that's an upgrade over Ben or not, but Ben and Lauren just kind of always seemed like she just wasn't into him in a way, and just too demanding, too whiny maybe. I don't know what the right word is, but she just, like, it always seemed like he might have been walking on eggshells around her just to please her, because she was so offended always by his interest in JoJo and the show, how it played out. Just didn't get the right vibe from her at sometimes, She just kind of, like, seemed like in her own bubble, and she never really maybe wanted to be with him long term. So clearly she's back in California and doing her thing, right? So Ben is single. There you go, ladies. He's available on the market. Ben Higgins. So yeah, that one's over, and yet another Bachelor couple broken up. But the biggest news centers around the Bachelor in Paradise controversy. So news leaked all over the internet. It's all over the internet now that an alleged, and there's so many stories going around about this back and forth. Now it's a criminal investigation apparently. 2 contestants. Let's see. The D-bag, the deflated, dummy, disappointing, all these words that I described them last week. Douche, disgusting, that guy. We're not going to name names if this is an alleged, legal thing. But I think you guys know who. The D, he's involved with another controversial figure from last year's, previous Bachelor, who really did a lot of things to try to get Nick's attention. The one that was platinum and all. In many ways. Even with her vagine. Those two were apparently involved in an altercation in a pool where things happened, and a producer made a report that she saw something, or he, not sure who was a producer, but they saw something that wasn't proper at all, like very improper and maybe unconsensual. So apparently clothes were off and genitalia were touched, and apparently there wasn't sex, but these things, whatever happened in the pool, was pretty raunchy and pretty maybe something that would be borderline porn. But here's the thing, this obviously we found out now that production halted because of this incident. Stories are being changed. Bachelor in Paradise has been canceled. Yes, it's been canceled for this summer, maybe forever. We don't know. So that's a huge, huge news. And everyone was sent back home. And due to these 2 actions of 2 people who got too drunk and out of control, and some things happened that probably shouldn't have. And we don't know the stories yet, but I'm sure there's going to be more coming out on this. But nothing good happened. And a lot of people got affected by this. And this is what happens. And I don't know who's to blame or what, but obviously the producers and the production have something here, right, to take up on their shoulders. And you know what? You keep on feeding people alcohol on this show and making them drunk, and apparently they were trying to hook up these 2 characters on screen for a hookup, because of course it'd be good TV, 2 villains hooking up, or whatever they do. But that stuff, you can't, even though it's reality TV and it's pretty scripted, you can't, I guess, pressure people to do certain things. And really, when they're not in good shape and you're pushing for it potentially and allowing it and filming it, and most importantly, in this case, the thing that probably should have been stopped, to stop all this would have been alcohol, right? But no, it's widely known that alcohol is very, very okay on the show. In a sense, it's pitched this is, you drink as much as you want, to be wild and crazy. And we've seen so many drunken episodes of people just losing their shit and being pissed drunk and acting a fool. But really, when it gets to this point, when someone's, nearly blacking out maybe, or whatever the case is, that's bad. You need to put a stop to this. So this incident, we don't know how it's going to turn out, what it is really. It's just so many conflicting reports. Hopefully in the end, everything gets resolved properly. But yeah, there's no Bachelor in Paradise, and that's a big thing. What happens this summer? Like, what are you going to watch? Apparently, they're going to do this Olympic Bachelor thing in February or sometime, during the next season. So there's going to be like an Olympic competition. But Bachelor in Paradise was honestly almost to a point becoming a better show than The Bachelor and Bachelorette. It was just more interesting and more exciting, I guess, and it was a lot of hype for it, and for it to be canceled, it's a big deal, and probably it might not be coming back if there's a big lawsuit, because two people couldn't keep it to themselves, right, and had to ruin it maybe for everyone, and depends what happened there. It's like the booze drinking is out of control, and it creates drama, but you know what, maybe this is going to change the way this show's done in the course of the show. Maybe the booze is going to be really toned down, and the show's going to kind of go away in a good way, I'd say. It's like, I think last few years, the show's garnered so much attention on social media and, in mainstream pop culture. But it wasn't like that a couple of years ago even, and it's been mainly due to the characters they've been creating. They always had characters, but now it's like they have them over the top. Like, it's almost a gimmick and parody, this show is, of the characters, the Chads and the Corinnes and, all these kind of like villain Kelseys, and, there's just an oversaturation of it. It's just too much. And, and the show went away from the focus, which is, I guess, on the surface about people finding their match, finding their love, right? But it really became about the characters. The biggest stars were the characters. Corinne was a bigger star than Nick on Nick's season, right? So maybe this will take away the focus of like just making this a mockery almost, and bringing these villains and just like these Whabooms and all sorts of dorks and weirdos to just like spice things up, where the actual person who's the Bachelor Bachelorette lose focus. And maybe this can reel in the show to its more, I don't know, pure, there's not much purity, but to the whole aspect of it, of just finding love, right? It can still be interesting. It can still be dramatic that way. You don't have to create these goofy, wacky, and just disgusting characters and bring on these people who have no interest in dating and, are cheaters on national TV, right? Being exposed by, relationships are being destroyed because they go on the show and whatnot. I mean, I'm sure the producers and casting directors are smart enough to know what they're getting and what they're casting, right? So this is a big deal that's going to be talked about, and there's news, there's daily coming out. It's sweeping all over the web. It is the biggest story right now. There's a week hiatus of this week's Bachelor because of the NBA Finals. LeBron James just had to extend to Game 5, right? And in turn preventing the Bachelorette from airing on Monday. But it'll be back next week. But it is garnering so much attention. I'm hearing online that people are saying it's a publicity stunt on comment sections and stuff, chat rooms, but you know what? You can't have such a case, alleged, violation, an assault, or whatever it might have been, be just a publicity stunt. It's too serious of a matter, to just make it as some sort of PR thing to garner attention to the show. You don't do that with people's well-being, on the line. So that's probably definitely not the case. But we'll see what happens more. I'm sure next week I will be updating you on the fallout, even more of it, and what's being said. But I do want to tease you in a sense and let you know that I might have a very surprise co-host / guest on the show next week. So make sure to stay tuned for that, because this person's someone you want to hear from. And if I'm not promising 100%, but I'm working on it. And if they come on, that'll be a really fun podcast to listen to, and be tuning in for sure, because we'll definitely delve in to their experience, and it's a cast member, so hopefully that falls through. I mean, well, in a good way. It happens, not falls through. Falls through would be not good. So yeah, stay tuned. Big things coming for this podcast and the website and all. So, and drama as always in Bachelor universe, right? One way or the other. But this time not for such good reasons, right? Or even fun reasons. But thanks for joining me here today. You can catch me on Twitter, Jim RKO. That's how you find me, at JIMRKO. Definitely check out my site, The Bachelor Universe. You can Google that term and get the site, or just go bacheloruniverse.wordpress.com. And of course, this podcast, Bachelor Universe Podcast, on Stitcher, iTunes, all where you get podcasts. It's all over. So just once again, Google that and look for that. And as always, the support, subscriptions, views, listens, all very important, and I appreciate that. So if any more news breaks, I will let you guys know and come on here and talk about it, right? And hopefully I'll have a very interesting co-host to bounce things off of next week. All right, for now, take care, guys, and as always, you are what makes this show go round, and thanks for joining me and listening. Until next time.